Good evening, everyone online and in person. It is 6:30. Tracy Hill is not going to be with us today, so I will be teaching our beginners lesson. We are going to give it just another 3 minutes for people to show up. So we will see you, I guess, actually, yeah, my phone said 6:30. I think it's 6:30. But anyway, we'll give another 3 minutes and then we'll go ahead and get started. Thank you all. I don't know who Tracy Hill is. Tracy Klein is not with us tonight. I don't need to do it.
Hello, everyone. Welcome. I'm just looking. Okay, I'm seeing does look like we have a few folks online. You folks in person. Do you want to stand over here? You want to stand on this side and I'll move it forward?
We just get sound coming through. I haven't heard any sound coming through the owl for us.
Can you
Can someone online talk?
We are here. Can you hear?
Yay! Okay. So, hello. It's good to see you all. This is going to be a little old school because Peter and I haven't led a beginner's lesson together for like
17, 18?
Yeah, something like that. So this will be fun. Tracy is getting a martial art belt. This testing for a belt this week. So excited to hear from her how that went. Also, I think like most of us are beekeepers who know things, who have done a lot of this before. So we can make this a little bit of a conversation. I think we have a few folks online. But today we're going to talk about early spring, nukes, packages, all of the things. And we have actually spent the last few days dealing with like 60 packages that we just brought up from California on Saturday. So we'll tell a little bit of that story as well. I'm Amy Beth. This is Peter. We are Rainy Day Bees.
Sure.
Anything else? What? I'll get us.
Sure, I can do that for this beginner's lesson.
Yeah. Okay. You want to talk about inspecting hives?
Yes, so I'm also gonna say to start out, this is Tracy's slide deck. I very quickly skimmed it before the meeting, but we are gonna be kind of going off the path and we're just talking about stuff. So for those who are coming back, and this is your second year and you've got a live hive, congratulations. On a day like today or tomorrow, you definitely have a great opportunity to inspect your hive. Now, it is still a little bit cool, even on these nice warm days, you don't need to have quite as much of a plan, but on most spring days in Seattle, definitely have a plan. Know exactly what you're gonna do, because you wanna get in and get out as fast as possible, so that you don't damage the hive, damage the brood by allowing too much cold air into it. Bring your tools, bring your notebook, whatever you're using to record your inspection. Obviously, yes, record your inspection, because if you don't have notes, you don't know what happened 2 weeks ago, 1 week ago, 1 month ago, whatever it was last time you inspected the hive. You have an idea, of course, but trust me, you won't really know.
Quick note for folks online, I cannot pull up chat on here. It won't let me see it. So just unmute yourselves if you have questions or things to say.
Is Mogley online? Probably not.
I don't think so.
Do we have any officers online?
Yes, Don is here. Jeff's there.
I'm here.
On board, Jeff, can you moderate any questions from the chat online and send them to us as appropriate? Yes,
I can also, I have chat.
Awesome. Thank you.
thank you very much. If you're a second year beekeeper, you know this. If it's below 55 degrees, it's probably really hard not to move frames unless you are looking at this hive and you are like, this hive's about to die and I want to know why. Then you can pull out a frame and look at it and be like, oh, that's why the queen's not there, or something like that.
What is the temperature in minutes rule? The 55 degree, 1 minute for every degree over 55 degrees, right? That's what some people go by. Has anyone heard that?
Someone quoted that to me a while ago, I don't remember.
Was it like no, I think it was like over 50 degrees. For every degree over 50 degrees, you can have the hive open for that many minutes. Which I thought that was an interesting way to think about it, like in that 50 to 60 degree, like you're super quick. I think it was over 55. And for our folks online, actually quick raise a hand in the room. How many people have live bees right now? Woo! Yay! People want to raise hands online? I can see how many folks we have live bees. I can see your. I'm seeing a couple. There's a little, yeah, should be a little raised hand feature. Okay, sweet. Feeding bees.
So, as we all know, during the spring in Seattle, it's wet, it's rainy, it's cold. Your bees probably aren't going to be able to get out and forage as much as would be ideal. You can feed them nectar and honey, not honey, feed them nectar and your honey, if you have your honey. You can also feed them pollen patties. If they have enough honey on them all still from last year, that could be great. Maybe you don't need to feed them any honey, but I heard from Randy Oliver told me years and years and years ago during a presentation, so he told lots of people, that a large hive during spring buildup can go through all of its pollen stores in 3 days. So, as a decent rule of thumb, if there's more than 3 days of bad weather where the bees are not going to be able to forage and it's spring buildup, which we're basically in now, it wouldn't be a bad idea to throw a little bit of supplemental protein. That would be a pollen patty. If you've saved, pollen by harvesting pollen and you saved it from in your hive from previous years, you can go ahead and put that in. Otherwise, pollen patties are a great option to build up those protein stores. If the bees don't have protein, they are not, we're talking about larvae here. If the larvae don't have protein when they're being fed, they're not going to be healthy as they grow up. They're going to be immune compromised, they're going to be weak. So we want to make sure that they have ample proteins and fats, the things that come in those pollen patties or in natural pollen as they're being mixed.
Okay. Any questions on patties or syrup? Yeah.
Vitamin C supplementation, can you sprinkle
Probably vitamin C and the sugar.
I've never used vitamin C supplementation. Anyone else in the room or
Yeah,
online?
I was just looking at the optional supplements. I was like,
See?
we haven't tried those.
Lemon juice, actually, the optional supplements, I think both the white vinegar and the lemon juice. As I said, this is Tracy's presentation, not mine. So I cannot swear to what she was intending when she wrote
I
this.
think that's more the change.
That's what I was gonna say. My guess is that either the vinegar or the lemon juice are primarily there to acidify it, not as a specific supplement.
Yeah, the lemon juice and vinegar are acidic, which helps the bees, but it also helps reduce mold buildup as well. Mold and melts.
And it
Yes.
also starts the process of inverting the sugar, so that the
Thank
bees
you.
don't have to
Yeah.
put quite as much work into it.
Thank you very much.
Perfect.
Not pollen packs.
Yeah.
Put them in there and they start going through it. The weather opens up and they stop taking the pollen supplement because they got good pollen up the end. When do you take it off? Is it gonna, I mean, there's an obvious spot if it's growing mold a month from now, but how long is it really going?
We'll stay good on the hive for a decent length of time. Obviously, if they start going mold, we don't want to have, pollen patties in the hive going mold. The thing that I didn't say earlier is if you are creating pollen patties, you really want that pollen patty to be completely on top of the brood nest. Anything that is off to the side of the brood nest, odds are good that the bees aren't going to take, or if they take it, they're going to take it much most likely. So if you've got a full patty and you're just putting it on, 5 frames of bees, either cut it in half or adjust it or come back in a week and just, move it so that it's on top of the stuff again.
The thing with pollen patties is you really want to start early February. So like you're really doing it before the pollen is happening. And what we're really doing it for is to generate new bees. Pollen will stimulate the queen with, pollen will create bees. So start early. And when we're done, we're done. I went out there and took the old crusty winter sugar off and saw that, there's a apple pollen patty here. Do I replace it? Do I put it there? Put it back in the freezer?
Yeah.
People online, by the way, if I'm not talking loud enough, if maybe Beth's not talking loud enough, let us know. If we need to repeat anything that anyone else is saying, let us know that as well. We want to make sure that you hear stuff. Okay.
Okay.
Oh, sorry, I alluded to this earlier, but do not feed your bees honey from the store or from any sources that you don't know what it is. That any honey that is not yours could have spores of American foul brood in it. How dangerous that is?
The reason,
American foul brood is highly dangerous. How high of the risk of contamination of your hive from honey is maybe debatable, but you
there's
don't
been some
want to
recent
risk
articles that,
the spores in the honey could possibly infect your bees. You really don't want to risk it. If your bees get American foul brood,
call us.
you can call us to talk about it.
Please,
We had it once in the last, however many, 15 years.
2020,
One
that's what
hive.
we needed in 2020.
Very pandemic year. But if your bees get it, you do have to euthanize the hive, you have to burn the equipment. You don't want to mess with it. Don't feed your bees honey from sources that you don't know what it is and that you don't trust completely. Install and patch bees.
So we had actually, until last year, had not installed packages for like 10 years. I think we had our very first IBIS package and we've done nukes since then.
More than 10 years.
Yeah, yes. But last year we started like selling packages. We just brought up 60 on Saturday. My little story for ourselves. My little story time is, so Peter got in Saturday night and he noticed that all of the cans of syrup were empty. So they had emptied out I want to show what the can looks like. There we go. So in a package, you get a can like this. This one has a little like piece of burlap. Most of the time they're fully sealed. The sealed end goes on top and there's 3 little holes that drip out so that the bees can get honey or the syrup from the can. The holes were slightly too big. All the syrup went out. We spent a good chunk of Saturday trying to figure out how to refill sealed cans and reseal them, and everything failed. At 10 p.m. on Sunday night, we found these little wood screw hole buttons that we inherited from Peter's grandfather's shop when he passed, and they were the solution. So Poppy was looking down on us, so we drilled 1/2-inch holes in all of them, refilled them with syrup, hammered the little plug in, and got them back in the packages, so that they could survive until we could install them over these last couple days. So just wanted to share, that was a tiring adventure the last couple days.
I got a question.
Yeah.
Just how did you do that with the bees on the can?
We removed the can, got the.
Put a
bees
tile on top. Yeah,
and covered it. Yeah.
yeah, put a tile on top and then, yeah. Have you ever, do you have a better solution?
Well, at this problem, we're not able to picture already the bulk cages when they are maybe 60 pounds of big bulk cages. What I would suggest, which is not ideal, is you put them sideways and you put a pollen pad. And then you improve the net. It's not as much airflow, and there's a lot more trash that falls down, and then it's not ideal, but it's.
Yeah. Okay, that's a good, yeah. Sunday afternoon, I was like spraying them with sugar syrup to just get something, but it's like, that's just not very much syrup. So that was our adventure. The wood plug was the thing. We tried a lot of like various plugs with like super glue, and nothing was trying to like sand them down. Didn't work. So that's just, yes, our little story time.
So the parents made the whole piece big.
Yes, and so then on the drive, they leaked out. So, because it was the first packages they were making of the year, and so, right, they just hadn't fully calibrated their.
I mean, the whole.
Because we got them
timer to me. I took a photo and sent them to the package producer, and he was like, "Oh, those holes are way too big." They looked tiny.
Yeah.
All of the syrup drained out during the drive.
Okay, do you want to talk about the two methods of installing packages?
Yep, so when you're installing a package, I didn't bring a pipe tool in with me. But essentially, the first thing you need to do is you need to get the queen cage out. You're gonna take the package, wrap it against the ground. All of the bees that are initially holding on up here, they're gonna fall down to the ground. Using your hive tool, you're going to remove the can, and there's gonna be a little metal piece here. I don't know if people online can see me or not, but hopefully. There's gonna be a little metal piece here that the queen cage is attached to. You're just gonna slide that out, pick it up, then you're gonna put the can back in while you inspect the queen, who is now in your hand in her cage on a little metal tab. You should look at her first, make sure she's alive. If the queen is not alive, put her back in and call your package, the person that you bought the packages from. That's a bad package. They should give you a new package. You don't have to go to get it. Of course, hopefully they're relatively close by. But usually you look at the queen, she's totally fine, everything's good. There's going to be a tiny cork on one end of the package. I don't know if we have a photo of that. Can you check the next one really fast?
There isn't.
Okay.
Yeah.
There's going to be a cork on one end of the queen cage, and you're just going to use a knife or your fingernails or whatever to pry that cork out, making sure that the queen is not near the cork. Cover it with your thumb, cover the hole with your thumb while you grab one or two marshmallows that your package provider probably gave you. If not, you will need to go get a marshmallow.
Mini marshmallows.
And then you're just gonna squeeze that marshmallow a little bit, stuff it into the hole. That's your timed release method for letting your queen out of your cage. Usually a marshmallow will hold her for 1 to maybe 2 years.
Who has lost a queen?
Quote, unquote.
Who has lost a queen out of a queen cage before? Anyone? Yeah, yeah.
On today.
So.
She went back into the hive of her own volition.
Can we give a tip for that?
Yeah.
If you use, put your hands inside your video. And then do that inside your video. You can see through it in your car, and then you can, and if she's safe, you can grab her. While the tube veil, and the mesh veil, the one the pocket up, and you can see that I use that as a sleeve.
Oh, yeah, like
It's like-
under you can,
It doesn't prevent you, so it doesn't get out of that.
yeah,
Yep.
that's a great tip.
One out and stop. Don't be afraid of firing all.
Yes.
The queen cannot stay, and even the workers around her, unless you like really mess with them, romance.
Yeah.
Okay, you've got your queen, she's happy. You're gonna go over to your hive, spread the middle frames, stick her in, and then I'm doing this obviously very fast mining stuff. Once you've got that, yes, go for
We're
it.
gonna talk about which
There-
age.
Yeah. Every time he sells a queen, I'm like, did you clarify?
Just
that?
read the sign. Come on. No. Yes, when you, and thank you, Dave. As I said, I didn't really prep for this. When you've got the queen cage, you want that screen facing every,
Not facing the frame.
Yes, that's,
the only thing that you have to 100% do is have it not facing the frame.
Sideways.
Different people are gonna tell you different ways to have the screen facing, as long as it is not facing into, so if this is the screen is facing this direction, as long as it is not facing directly into a frame, the bees will be able to get to her and feed her. If it is facing directly into a frame, the bees will not be able to get to her, they will not be able to take care of her. You will probably have a dead queen, and that is not the package seller's fault, that is your fault.
and we get calls about that a lot. There's different types of queen, no,
That's
but,
happened.
and there are different types of queen cages, so some of them, like, we really like ones that are open on all sides, so that. Yeah.
Which is not what you will get in the package, almost guaranteed. Okay, you've got your package. There are a couple different ways to get the bees into the package. Once again, you are going to have to wrap it on the ground, probably not on the hive that has the queen in it, to get the bees off of it. Take the can off it. The can will probably have a few bees on it. That's okay, set it to the side. At this point, you have a few different, as I said, you have 3 different options for how to get the bees from here into here. One option is to set another box directly on top of it, wrap it on the ground, on its corners, get a good nice ball of bees in the middle, and then you literally can just shake it in, bang it, whatever. That's probably the most disruptive option,
I feel like that's the most recommended.
but it's the most
way.
common option too.
Especially as a beginner beekeeper, that feels terrifying. Like, that's not a, yes, it's not a great solution, like, it's not a good first interaction with bees.
Alternative option, if you want to be a little bit gentler with the bees, this is what Russell Highcomb recommends, is you can literally just tip it over directly on top of the queen. All of the bees will, over a day or two, go ahead and just exit on their own. This will only work if you have a wood package cage like this. I did try it with one of the plastic screen cages, so there's screen on all sides. Last year, they just stayed in the package. I mean, we got some cluster down below, but because they could, there was a direct contact between the bees in the package and the bees down below, a lot of them just decided to stay and hang out in the package. So that'll work, that should work well for you if you're using a wood package, if you've got one of the plastic ones that's screened on all sides. My experience last year was it didn't work as well. Colleen.
It's not, since they come in the screen, is it? When you have to leave the box open.
Sorry. So there, you would do that. You would then put another box on top. Let me finish what that was, and then you would just put the lid on top of that. So it's a very nice, easy, non-disruptive way to get the bees into the hive if you like to, if you would like to less disruptive. That's what I'm doing this year with the 60 packages I've been distributing. Other way, other than, shaking it directly in, you can also you can put a little board in front of the hive, you can shake them out kind of in front of the hive, lay the package down in front of the hive, and you will see the bees walk in because they'll smell the queen and take care of stuff inside.
Does anyone have another, question?
Can you use a bee brush? It's dust.
So I will say I have used a bee brush once in 13 years. For anything, or we have bee brush, just in general, we have bee brush fans here. We've got one. So in general, it's like, they don't love to be brushed.
Bill, sorry, was your question like, if you're dumping them out in front of the hive, can you brush them in, or what was the brushing option?
Open the box, go to the side and brush it out the side.
I don't think you would be able to really get the brush in and have any, I don't think you'd be able to manipulate anything like that. Yeah, it's just this little opening that you need to get the bees out of, so you can shake them out, that works, it totally works. You can set them on, they'll leave by themselves. You can shake them out in front and let them continue on in themselves.
Does anyone else have a preferred?
Yeah. I think what's really important here is that it's not about shaking bees. And this is like what is so messed up about how we are taught to take packages. The thing is that the bees want to find the queen. And all you have to do is put the box on its side, on a wood ramp, preferably not on the ground, and maybe shake a few of the bees on top of the queen. But don't aggressively.
And then they'll start fanning.
Just get some bees on the queen, because they will send a pheromone into the air to tell all of the bees in the package where the queen is. And the bees in the package will just walk in. So stop the shaking the bees nonsense and let the bees do what they do.
There are times when shaking is necessary, but yes. But I'm mostly not shaking them. I'm mostly not, but there are a couple times.
Yeah, I had it, and there were so many bees left in the zoo. I ended up putting a stool right in front of my hive, and so they could just walk across, because they weren't flying.
It's the same as when you collect a score. They walk into the box, because the
Yes.
queen is there.
Yeah.
Let them walk into the box.
You're making this way too simple.
David,
No, this is how.
David, you're here to make.
Like, we're trying to teach people the biology of bees. It's not like going in the kitchen or making a martini. You're asking the bees to find the queen.
David, I brought you here to make beekeeping complicated, not simple.
But this is important, because it's like, if you have a dog or a cat and you want to train them, you want to find the behaviors they do and encourage those behaviors. And the behavior that the bees have is to spray the Massimoff pheromone into the air to say, here's the queen, it's to come in the pheromone. So to start teaching people about the biology of bees, not how to shake a box.
I'm short on time. This is my presentation.
I think it's a terrifying place.
It is a terrifying place. I agree. Do one of the easy ways, 100%, do one of the easy ways.
We talked through a lot of this, right? You're gonna reassemble your hive. The really key here is making sure you are feeding sugar syrup. So this is a swarm of bees, they need food.
How much syrup?
Continually.
As much.
It's about a couple, 2.5 gallons.
Yeah.
I would agree.
So plan on like 1 liter a day. So the next time you want to visit them, or at least visit the feeder, is however many liters you put into the feeder.
How many you spend 2.5 gallon bucket feeders?
Yeah, big. Feed them as much as they will take, and I think David's probably right that, 2.5 gallons a week. If the package is really going through it, they can totally do that. I do not use packages very often, so I am less experienced with packages than some people. But yeah, they will eat a lot of syrup. If you're thinking that you're going to feed your bees with a quart jar, don't. Get a real feeder, get a frame feeder, get a top feeder, get a bucket feeder, doesn't matter. But if it's a single quart jar, or worse, a single pint jar, you're not going to be able to get enough food into them, especially if it's a package. Geraldo.
Maybe I missed it.
Yeah.
You mentioned 3 ways to the bees,
Yes.
there, but I only heard 2. Can you summarize?
One way, shake it directly into the hive. That's the most disruptive.
Yep.
No one really enjoys that way. Second way, you can just invert the package in the hive.
And put a box
Third
on top
way.
and leave it.
Maybe shake a few bees into it, set the package out front and let the majority of bees just walk in. You can shake them out front, you can set them out front. As I said, I don't do a lot of
Probably between
packages.
the ramp, getting them off the ground.
Yeah, help them to have a way to get into the hive if you're setting stuff on the ramp, a ramp of some sort.
Okay,
Oh, 80%, this is just a good rule of thumb generally, when your box is 80% drawn, if they're drawing the box, that's when you add your next box. 8 of 10 frames.
okay.
Installing a nucleus hive is
Super
much
quick.
much easier and gentler on the bees. Also, in my opinion, more likely to be successful in general. Less things that can go wrong. If you have a nucleus hive, for example, a pro nuke, which I think most people are providing them in now. Some of them are probably still easy nukes,
Which is the white ones.
which is the white ones that are in the photo right there. You will take 5 frames out of your hive that is prepared.
I take 6.
6, sorry, you're right. So you take 6 out. David's right, take 6 out.
So you're.
And then you are going to transfer, and once again, oh, sorry, package you have to install very, very quickly, like as fast as you possibly can, generally, once you get it. Nucleus hive, they've got everything they need. They should have some honey, they've got brood, they've got a queen, they've got workers, all of that stuff. You can hold a nuke for a while before you have to install it. If you hold it too long and it's a strong nuke, it will get swarmy,
So
but you can wait a little bit.
when people are picking up nukes from us, we tell them, take them home, set it on top of the hive that you're going to install it in, and immediately open it. Do not be the guy that we sold one of our overwinter nukes to, that left it
It wasn't,
completely
it wasn't
closed.
overwintered. It was just a really big nuke.
Left it completely closed in direct sunlight on a 75-degree day, and called us 6 hours later. Boy, it's an end.
My hive is dead.
Yes.
Yes, it
So-
is.
So I'm confused about what you're suggesting here.
So we're gonna, if this has a lid on it, right here, I'm gonna take my closed,
By lid, you mean it's got an inner cover.
Just a cover,
like the actual.
full cover. I didn't
Cover
bring a
lid.
cover with me today.
So we're gonna take, like, this is basically just the hive box. I'm gonna set this directly on top and open up.
So you're setting it on top because you want to orient the bees
Correct.
to where they're going to
Because-
return.
Thank you,
Yes,
Dave.
because I'm opening this so that the foragers can fly and they can go find where they are going. So that's why I'm placing it directly on where it's going.
And then when the nuke disappears, they will go into the right box.
Yes, they're gonna go right back here. That also means that when you're installing the nuke, there's gonna be less bees in the nuke, a little easier for you to manage.
If you open the nuke at least 30 minutes beforehand, longer if it's not a nice day, but set it on top of the hive, open the nuke. The specific method varies depending on what type of nuke you have. On the pro nuke, you literally just push it up and it locks into place. It's easy. Easy nuke is similar, but as long as you place it, on top of the hive or directly next to the hive, it doesn't matter that much. Let the bees fly at least 30 minutes. All of the foragers are going to be off foraging. When you come to actually install the hive, you're going to have a whole lot less bees in the nuke, making life difficult for you as you're trying to transfer the frames. When you come back, take the lid off, however that works with the nuke you're doing, and you're just going to transfer the frames one at a time from the nuke box into the hive box. And as you're doing that, you want to take a fast peek, just make sure that you do have brood in there. Ideally, that should be open brood and capped brood. If it's a nice enough day that you can spend a little bit of time queen spotting, look for eggs.
David disagrees.
You won't disagree.
People get obsessed with finding a queen.
Oh.
And you just put them in, not be too busy trying to find a queen.
I agree.
Let you mark the bees.
I agree. For the most part, if you're a new beekeeper, don't spend time looking for the queen, especially during nuke installation, unless it's gorgeous out. If it's gorgeous out,
You want to have somebody with you who knows how to beat these.
even better,
And show you what's going on.
even better. You do have to learn how to find the queen. And that's a nucleus hive installation. It's very undisruptive for the hive, easy on the bees. And then if there will be some bees left on it, you can, as Alyssa said, you can set it in front, you can set it on the side, you can set it in front, so that the bees can come out, kind of do the same thing that the package bees did, or you can shake them into the box. whatever is easiest for you and works in your particular situation. There is no one right way to do most beekeeping.
Question.
Does anyone have any fast questions regarding package installation, nuke installation, or very, very, very early season beekeeping stuff? We did run a little bit over on that. But so if anyone who's in the room, feel free to grab refreshments. Anyone who's online, you can also grab refreshments. We'll be starting the full meeting in probably about 10 minutes, once we do a few minutes of, yeah, I told David we'd be starting at 7:15, so 10 minutes.
Too long. He said, don't leave them in there too long, it was too long.
The new.
The new-
The bees,
In a nucleus hive,
yeah.
it's gonna depend a lot on the size of the nucleus hive. I've sold nucleus hives that, you know, are basically bursting at the seams, and if you leave them in there for another 3 days, they'll probably be making swarm cells.
But most likely. A week.
You know, most ones, if
It's all
the weather's horrible, if the weather's horrible.
Don't let my brain stop me like that. That's nonsense. Just open the box, give yourself room, like if it's a 5-frame nuke, take out all the other frames. Grab two, 1, slot the other ones in, close it, it doesn't matter. It's definitely
I don't-
contrary to what we just said. Yeah.
Yeah, I don't think
So I have a question, do you have a question?
I don't
Any
think,
beginner's lesson is going to be conservative on its instructions.
I don't think we've ever had a new pickup where, like, it was nonstop raining in the day or two after, like, that time of year, there's typically drinks in the rain when, like, you can get out. It's fun. So, okay, we're gonna, any questions online before we take a quick break? Awesome.
Okay, thank you, everyone. We will see you in about,
7:15. If you all want to chat too, we will mute audio here so you can talk online.
cool.
So who else here in the room, let's see, Regina and Kat, oh, Cass is here. Kat's here, Kataria. Hi, guys. How are your bees doing?
Living wing to mouth right now. I just went in this morning and yeah, I'm like, oh yeah, pollen patty definitely, because they were completely out and cannibalizing.
No, yeah. It gets tricky this time of year, especially when it gets really warm like this. They can go through their food really fast.
Yeah.
How are your bees doing, Missy? Do you have bees yet?
I did, Dawn. Yeah, I managed to get my six hives through the winter. Two of them are, yeah, I'm very pleased. 2 of them are small and 2 are sort of medium and 2 are going great guns.
Yeah.
I haven't gone in yet except just to check their food stores, and I'm still just feeding solid sugar, and they're eating it like crazy, and also the pollen patties they're going through. So I'm curious if you have any opinions about shifting over from those solid sugar cakes that got them through the winter to the 1-to-1 syrup.
Yeah, I'm kind of doing, so I'm in a bunch of different apiaries, and I'm kind of treating them all differently this year as I have time for different things. So one of them I gave syrup a month ago, but I also left the dry sugar on. One of them I gave syrup last week. And again, what I do is I leave the dry sugar on until they're completely through it. And then what happens sometimes is I'll find that just one of the hives has run out of food, and I can steal the dry sugar off of another one that has plenty of resources by then. I am a fan of dry sugar, although especially in the fall. But in the spring, I feel like at some point we do want to give them a little bit of syrup to just help boost them. There's a school of thought that says if you give them sugar too early, they're going to build up too fast and they're going to swarm on you. Well, they would be likely to do that regardless of when they got the nectar. When the nectar flow came on the maple or something, they might do that also. I always default towards the strongest hive that the colony can possibly be. And so about now is a good time to start feeding the 2-to-1 syrup. And I used to take the old dry sugar and use that to mix the syrup. And now I just leave the dry sugar on and feed them syrup, and eventually they eat it all.
Great. Well, I'm all for lazy beekeeping, so just leaving it on there for them to finish up is a good idea.
Well, and I'm super lazy. I actually start feeding dry sugar in August.
Oh, you do?
I don't even, I almost don't even do 2-to-1 syrup anymore because I'm running
Yeah.
40 hives and
Yeah.
mixing up 2-to-1 syrup for 40 hives. And I've done that for the last 2 years now, and it's worked really well. If you've got maybe 1 or 2 out of 10 will take some of the sugar out and throw it out. But none of them completely emptied it out. And if you're worried about that, you can just spray some water on it and it'll form kind of a crust.
Yeah, that's what I ended up doing. I used Rusty Burlew's recipe, and I put some hardware cloth inside a box I'd cut down sort of to the width of an eek, and I put parchment paper under, and then I just put this sugar and water very dry and just packed it in, and it just dried solid like one of those candy Easter eggs or something. And it's, 2 of my hives ate it all completely up. I was just really amazed.
Yeah.
Really amazed. Yeah. Is it just the 3 of us on here? Are there more people that I'm not seeing?
I think there's 16 of us here.
Oh, I don't want to dominate things, but if other people, I do have a question if other people don't want to jump in.
It's a quiet group today, apparently.
I'd say go ahead, Missy, and then if other people want to jump in,
great.
are welcome to also. And this is just, you guys, this is just an open conversation, and this really is a chance to get to ask questions. So take advantage if you have any. But Missy, why don't you finish up yours?
So I've got 3 hives side by side, and I want to separate them out. I really enjoyed reading that new book, Dead Bees Don't Make Honey, by Teresa Martin. I thought it was really interesting. So
I met her. She's really nice. Yeah.
I'm going to try spreading my bees out much further this summer. And I've never actually moved a whole hive from one place to another. And I'm just wondering if you have any tips about just like sort of the mechanics of a deep that still has 2 honey supers on top of it, even though I think they're empty, and the bottom board. Like, what's the best way to get it, 100 feet across my meadow to put it someplace else?
Well, oh boy, it's going to be tricky. So, the rule of thumb is 3 feet or 3 miles.
I've heard that.
Yeah, and I have tried to move them before, and it is difficult. They do keep going back to that same spot. I had a clump of grass that had mad bees in it for like 6 weeks when I tried to do that years ago. So you can you've got a couple options. One is really a pain in the neck. You can move them 3 miles and put them in a friend's yard and then bring them back, and you lose a certain number of bees doing that. The other thing you could do, since the temperatures aren't too warm yet, is we've got some cold weather coming up, another cold snap. That's the best time to do it. The middle of winter is when you want to move them, really.
Okay.
Then they haven't oriented to that spot yet.
I see.
And what you could do is, now that it's getting cold and it's going to be cold for a couple days and they won't be coming out as much, you could move them and screen them off so they can't get out. It's not something you would ever do in the summer because they would overheat. Possibly even if you've got a screen bottom board, take that slider out of the bottom so that they can ventilate well. And then by the time they've been in a spot for 3 days, then by the time they come out again, then they do their orientation flights and you should be okay.
Okay. And just like, do you put a ratchet strap around them? How do you like physically, is it a 2-person job? Can I do it alone? What would you suggest?
It depends on your bench. I'm actually moving an entire apiary tomorrow morning. So what you want to do is you want to go out in the morning. So don't try and do it at night because they tend to fly fairly late into the evening. So go out early in the morning when they're all in and it's cold. and screen them off so they can't get out. So use
Yeah.
screen and duct tape and then use a ratchet strap and crank them down as hard as you can. Really crank it tight. Depending on how high your bench is up off of the ground, you need to get the hive to the ground. And if it's low enough that you can kind of slide it off the bench, then that works. If it's up high, you'll need someone to help lift it down to the ground and then just put it on a dolly and take it wherever.
And
Okay.
it helps if you can reduce them down to one box before that, but depending on how time sensitive it is, you might just take everything at once. But yeah,
Okay.
if it's more than
Okay.
one box, it's definitely a 2-person or more.
Great, great. Well, thanks for that good advice and good luck with moving your whole apiary, Dawn. I hope you're going to have some helpers.
I do. My husband will help, but I've got a lifter. We've done this before, so it's, yeah. Thank you.
Yeah. Yeah. I know that there was really bad mortality in the commercial bee world this winter. How did other folks fare this winter in our hobby beekeeper community?
I lost 1 of 3, but that was a really late fall or early winter loss that I was expecting.
There's a couple things I've heard so far. So the hobbyists had normal losses. So this does not appear to be anything that is affecting the hobbyists yet or at all. I've heard things from 2 different people that are 2 different groups that are researching, because they're calling it the largest loss since in history, in American history of bees. And they're now pretty solidly saying 70%. I heard something from the folks who do the virus testing, and they said that, and everybody, they all have a little piece of it, right? So you get a single view and then a single view and a single view, and they haven't put them all together yet. So the virus folks said that the bees that they were testing, the ones that lived and the ones that died, both had viruses of different kinds, what they call, it's a fluorescent virus. It's a certain class of virus. But the one thing that 100% of the dead colonies all had was nosema. And nosema is a bacteria that gets into the bee's gut, and it literally eats the bee's food for them and makes them sick, and they starve to death. So I think that they become so weakened then that the virus gets them. So that's what the virologists found. And then I read today, I actually posted it to our Facebook group. There was another thing that they've got people who are tracking where they migrated to and what they were fed, and every single possible factor. And so one said
Sorry,
that,
I wasn't.
hang on just a second. Yeah, just a second. Said that the thing that they've consistently found was that they think it's neonics. So they were checking the yards and things like that, fields around the bees. So they're thinking it's neonics. So the jury is still out, but it is a huge problem. It is either the year before or 2 years before that, 90% of the bees in Florida collapsed, of the commercial bees. So there is, hopefully they're gonna find, they say in about 30 days they'll have an answer.
Wow. Thank you, Dawn.
Yeah. Oh, it looks like they put us back on mute again. Locke, did you have a question?
If we have a minute, I have 2 hives that made it through winter. One is just exploding at the seams, and the other one, I mean, it's probably less than like a package of bees is left in there. It's really small. Would you recommend like introducing bees from the, really full hive into the smaller one or the weaker hive?
Yeah, so there's a couple reasons why they could be small. One is because maybe they just lost a lot of bees, something happened in the fall, they had more dwindling than the big hive. Or it could be because something's going on with their queen. Maybe this is the queen's 3rd year and she's starting to fail. The only way you really know is if you give a frame or 2 of brood with the attached bees. Don't shake those bees off. Keep the bees that are on the brood and give those to the smaller hive one time. I never donate more than once. I have had hives come back and do a really strong recovery with that. All they needed was just a few more bees to get that virtuous cycle going where they could build up. But then I have had other colonies at other times. If you take a queen that's failing and you put an entire another colony with her, she will have a whole lot more bees for about a month, and then you'll be back to a small colony again. So it does work, but I wouldn't try it more than once.
Okay, thank you.
Mm-hmm.
Great. Thank you, Dawn. Thank you, everyone else. Hope you've all had a great time online. We do need to go ahead and get started with the rest of the meeting. And once again, thank you so much, Dawn, for all of that
I
great
didn't know
stuff.
I didn't know
We
you
were
guys were
listening in for a
listening. I
while
thought you
there at
guys
the
went back to what you were doing. Sorry.
end. No, that was awesome. We enjoyed listening in at the end there. Hey, everyone. First of all, I guess, Dawn, can you confirm that screen sharing is working correctly? You can see the presentation and all that?
Yep, looks
Awesome.
great.
Thank you. I didn't update the meeting slide title, obviously. This is not the February meeting. This is the March meeting. Hi, it's March. You're at the Puget Sound Beekeepers Association, which is a 501c3. We've been around since 1948, and we're here to promote beekeeping and bee-related things. Everyone, if you are in the room and you are an officer, please raise your hand. If you're online and an officer, please raise your hand as well. Current officers are myself, Peter Nolte, the president, Magali Eaton, I don't believe is here, but she would be online if she is. Bruce Becker is here in person. Colleen DeVille, also here in person, our secretary, and Dawn Beck, we just heard talking, our president ex officio, which means she was the president last year. We also have trustees both online and in here. If you are a trustee online or here in the room, if you would just raise your hand. Everyone look around, look online for your group. These are your trustees. They're here to help the organization thrive. If you have questions, thoughts, things we can do better, things you love that we're doing, please talk to a trustee or an officer. We'd love to hear about it. And we have one trustee position available if you happen to really, really, really want to help lead the club. We're looking for someone to help lead the club, and it's possible we might have a second one coming up, but we definitely have one trustee position available right now for anyone. You don't have to be a beekeeper. You certainly don't have to be an expert beekeeper. You just need to want to help the club to thrive. We've got volunteer opportunities. That QR code that's up on your screen, if you want to click on it, will lead you to a form that you can fill out to let us know, I think, to let us know what you would be interested, how you'd be interested in serving. We do have 2 serve opportunities coming up.
It worked. Okay.
Yeah, works. Great. Awesome. Thank you. First of all, we have our first event of the year on April 26th. It is going to be at the Native Plant Sale, which is a ton of fun. There's a ton of great native plants for your garden, for other people's gardens. We're going to do some honey sales. We're going to talk to people about bees. I don't know where. That's a wonderful question. Anyone? It's at the Bellevue Botanic Garden. Thank you so much.
It's works. There's a coffee shop, so it's a botanic garden with a coffee shop.
Yeah, and it's April 26th. I don't know what date that is. I don't know if it's open, but yeah, the Bellevue Botanic Garden is absolutely gorgeous. Love it. Walk around, enjoy the plants. It's just a 3-hour shift for this. So 3 hours of honey sales, talking to people about bees and all that sort of stuff. It's a lot of fun. If you're interested, that QR code on the last screen will take you to a place where you can contact us and let you know that you would absolutely love to participate. Kit is the person who is in charge of that. So you can also find her email, I believe, on the website under the officers. Or you can email me and I can forward it to her. Yes. And Kathleen confirms it is on the calendar. Thank you so much, Kathleen. And you can sign up right on the calendar. Thank you so much. Really, really, really appreciate that. So you can sign up directly on the calendar if you want to help out at that sale. I think, is anyone here from Bruce? For the extractors, do you still have to have volunteered at something in order to run the extractor?
I don't
Anyone?
think so.
We're ready to start renting the extractors. Great. And is it still policy that you need to have volunteered once in order to do that? Or have we removed that policy? That was from a long time ago that I'm remembering that. Anyone know? You,
Great.
okay, that's not a thing anymore. Ignore me.
You do have to be a member.
You do have to be a member though. So if you're not a member, sign up. Okay, that's the native plant sale. Gerardo is going to talk about our community outreach program.
Yeah, this is another volunteering opportunity. We reach out to the community teaching about bees and beekeeping. And this is a good way to establish a friendly relationship with the community. So I went for 10 years to an elementary school next to my house, and now the kids in the community are not scared of this. That's fine, because sometimes we have beehives next to other houses, and having a friendly relationship is better. So in order to go to schools and present on behalf of PBSA, if you can go to the next one. There are two requirements. First, we need to be a member and in good standing. And second, there are some legal aspects that need to be covered. So I'm going to organize a 30 minutes online training. If you are interested, that QR code will take you to a form where you can contact me. And then usually there is a small group, 5 to 10 people. We can figure out what is a day to work for everybody. I'll set it up, half an hour online, then you fill another form that says, yeah, I understand the legal stuff. And what happens is you will start receiving emails from me, connecting teachers, coordinators, senior centers, or other members of the community with the speakers. And so depending on who's available where, we can just connect. This is a very dynamic group of speakers. I'm very happy working with them. We actually have one right here. John, reach out to me. I'd be happy to add you to that community. Thank you.
Perfect.
And that is the picture of Miss Nicholson, which is the teacher at the elementary school next to my house.
Perfect. Thank you all so much, and Geraldo for leading that program. One other volunteer/experience opportunity that's coming up that I didn't make a slide for. First, the volunteer opportunity this Saturday, right, Kathleen? This Saturday at the apiary here at the Arboretum is the apiary cleanup day. We're going to be sorting equipment, cleaning equipment, getting everything ready for the newbies to come in, and package installation is the second item experience learning thing that we have coming up in the apiary. And tentatively, we haven't received final confirmation of when the packages are going to be here, but tentatively April 13th, which is a Sunday, April 15th, 1/5, which is a Sunday, is going to be package installation here at the apiary. If you haven't installed a package before and your bees are arriving after that, it's a great opportunity to learn how to install a package because it is a lot of bees if you've never done it. 13th. I was right. Anyway, April 13th, Sunday at the apiary package installation day. If you want to do that, we do not have a sign up for it online quite yet, but the sign up will be online in the next couple days. And you do have to sign up in order to do any of the apiary work parties, which this is one of. And there is an online release form as well that you do need to fill out in order to do any of those apiary work parties. Thank you so much. Neighborhood captains, not going to spend any time talking about that tonight because we're running behind, but neighborhood captains are your way to get mentorship within the PSBA community. Click on the QR code, find out who your neighborhood captain is, try to connect with them if you want to talk about stuff. The swarm list has not, I don't think, been published yet. Jeff, is that correct? Is there still time? Not hearing Jeff. I believe there is still time to apply for the swarm list if you would like to be on the swarm list, but that list will be released, published and released very, very, very soon. So if you want to be on the swarm list, that's what we hand out to emergency services as well as pesticide companies, those sorts of things, for people to have an option to have the bees bees in a swarm captured and relocated to a managed hive rather than being disposed of. You do have to be an experienced beekeeper in order to be on the swarm list, and you have to know how to catch swarms. If you are not an experienced beekeeper, you don't know how to catch swarms, we would love for you to connect with someone who does know how to collect swarms. And then next year, we would love for you to be on the swarm list. That is a wonderful question. The question was, what is the process for connecting with an experienced beekeeper who knows how to collect swarms? There is not an official process currently. That is something we should figure out. Easiest way, look at the swarm list. Jeff?
Yeah, so people who sign up for the swarm list, there is a question if they're willing to mentor. So if someone's really interested in learning, reach out to me directly, and I can try to connect you with someone that's nearby to you.
Perfect.
And if you don't have Jeff, email, you can email president at PSBA and we'll get it.
Yeah. If you can't find Jeff's email, just email president at Puget Sound Bees and I'll forward it to him. APR registration, it is almost April 1st. Everyone who is a beekeeper in Washington State is required to register your bees. This provides you with liability protection as long as you're following all laws in Washington State. Also, the fees are very, very, very minimal. If you're a hobbyist with 5 or less hives, it's only $5 for the year. If you are a larger hobbyist, it's still very, very, very cheap. Even if you're a sideline or a commercial, it's not that expensive. Register your bees. The money goes to Wazoo, to the Bee Lab for bee research, and it's cheap insurance for you.
How do I get the form?
You can click on that QR code right there to get the form, or if you just Google Washington State beekeeper registration, you'll be able to get there very, very, very easily as well. I don't believe we have any forms here, correct? I didn't print any up this year, so I assume we don't. But yeah.
It was very easy to get online and there's a PDF that you can fill in.
Yeah, there's a fillable PDF. It's very, very, very easy. You do have to mail it in, unfortunately, but it is very, very, very easy. By April 1st is the deadline for that. Okay, 1 second while we switch over to
Give a little intro.
To David Feinberg. David, if you just go ahead and step up, we'll talk really fast. David was an experienced beekeeper when I started at PSBA back in 2011. No idea how long he had been beekeeping at that point, but he has always been part of the peanut gallery in my memory. Strongly opinionated beekeeper, which is very standard for beekeepers. We tend to have strong opinions. And if you ask 10 beekeepers a question, you will probably get 11 answers, and I will give you 6 of them. David has been double queening colonies. He learned from his mentor. Are you going to talk about Lincoln during your presentation, David? Great. He learned from his mentor, who's an amazing beekeeper. I had one opportunity to chat with David's mentor. It was a wonderful experience. I learned a huge amount. And David's going to teach us about double queening today, which is by the way, for everyone, just so that I'm throwing this out here, double queening is an advanced beekeeping thing. If you are a beginning beekeeper, especially if this is your first year beekeeping, I want you to listen. It's a lot of fun, and you should totally try it next year or the year after. Don't try to double queen colony this year. It's going to be a super interesting year 3 or 4, depending on how. But by year 2, all beekeepers know everything, right? It's year 4 that you stop knowing everything. But it's going to be a lot of fun. You're going to learn a lot. More advanced beekeepers. If you can find a queen, this is a little late. David can tell you probably to be starting, but you could play around with double queening this year if you want.
No, there's still time.
Okay.
Yeah.
And I'm going to be advanced in slides and David tells me to.
Okay, great, because I was like, well,
Hi, my name is David Feinberg, and I really don't know how long I've been beekeeping. I was thinking about that. It's probably been over 30 years at this point. My wife, who was the animal care manager at the Pacific Science Center for many years, one day brought a colony home. Normally, she's interested in all things biological. For some reason, the bees grabbed me, not her, and I've been beekeeping ever since. And quickly, my story was I would buy a package every year. I think I did it for 3 or 4 years. And then the package would die over the winter, and I wanted to get serious. And then one year I bought 4 packages, three worked, and and then I started noticing the differences between colony strength, and you start to learn more when you have more than one colony, but that's not tonight's discussion. But that's how I got started. So I've been double queening. It's labor intensive. It takes a lot of work. It's not for everybody. It's been a great source of pleasure for me to do it, although all beekeeping is a great source of pleasure for me. This is a picture taken a couple of years ago, probably right around now. The daffodils are up, so it was probably the same week a couple of years ago. The frame on the right was from an inspection on Saturday, and that's an overwintered hive, and that's a fresh frame of brood from a nice strong queen who made it through the winter. So let's go to our second slide. So I'm sorry that the type is smaller than I didn't know how small it would be on this. And I'm not going to read my presentation. It's available. I'll leave it with Peter and it's available. But what I'm saying here is that this is an advanced technique. I'm going to go through a whole series of hive manipulations and things we're going to do. And I'm assuming that you already know how to beekeep. You know how to do an inspection, you know how to bait a honey super, you know how to introduce undrawn frames, you understand what a brood nest is, possibly a limited or an unlimited brood nest. You know when to add supers before and during the flow. Perhaps you know how to manage large colonies to prevent swarming, which is actually, this is a fantastic way to prevent swarming. And then managing the brood nest is what this presentation is really all about. And I don't get into my control either. So let's get into it. And so the key to double cleaning is, where are my green screens?
Oh, sorry. I set them behind.
Okay.
Sorry.
So no, that's fine. So you really only need one piece of gear that you may not have, and you can buy them or make them. I have a link in it, but pretty much this is a divider that's got well, it's got a pair of entrances. They're on the same side. Don't put them on the opposite side, as Randy Oliver pointed out. You don't want to do that. What this does is this allows the pheromone from 2 queens to basically the colony gets used to the pheromone of 2 queens. So when you remove the second queen, the new queen will be accepted. You cannot use a queen excluder because bees pass through queen excluders. You need something that's solid. Typically the ones that are sold have a double screen in them. It's actually not necessary to have a double screen. A single screen works just as well. The downside is you lose bee space and you can get a little bit of buildup. But we'll get to that later on. So this is the only piece of gear you need that you may not have. Next slide. So this is really the basis of the whole thing. So in the spring, bee population should increase by 50 to 100% every brood cycle. So that means every 21 days, your bees should double the amount of brood and the amount of bees that are in the colony. This assumes the colony has plenty of bees. Let's say 8 to 16 frames of bees will have 6 to 10 frames of brood, full and partial when I say that. So they're going to be like the one in the photo or perhaps smaller. You're not going to get wall-to-wall brood. So they're all, when I say full, it's probably half to 3/4 full, and a partial is maybe half full or less. The bees have plenty of resources in the colony, honey, pollen, and the queen is a strong queen that's laying. Worker bees are on a 21-day brood cycle. Depending on when we get into our bees, we typically have 3 or 4 brood cycles from when the time the girls wake up to when we're recombining ahead of the honey flow. So So my mentor, he starts his double queening process in early February. And what that looks like is He's getting into all of his bees. He's putting a couple of pollen patties on all of them because he wants to stimulate brood production. And then he's monitoring every week. So let's say he starts February 5th. That means one brood cycle, February 1, into March 1, March 21 is the second, April 15th is the third, May 7th is the fourth. And then we're gonna break the colony down around the 21st of May. So you can get 4.5 brood cycles in. I started on last Saturday, so I'll have 3 brood cycles, should have 3 full brood cycles. So, and then more BMAP, and this is, so to manage, I recommend, getting into your colonies every week. You could conceivably get in every 2 weeks. It's up to you. But the important thing is that what we're trying to do is produce as much brood as possible. And the BMAP is for every frame of brood that we generate, we should generate 1 frame of honey. So if you're able to generate 40 or 60 frames of brood, you'll, I'm doing Westerns, that means every Western will weigh about 6 pounds, 40 times, you can conceivably harvest enormous harvests. Typically the most I've ever gotten is a little over 100 pounds. Lincoln regularly gets over 200 pounds per colony with his aggressive feeding of the bees. Let's go to our next slide. Yes.
I'm just wondering how the layout is. I mean, is this, you've got 2 queens, but
We're gonna get to that. Just hang on.
Okay, that's.
Hang on. Yeah.
We'll get to the physical part.
In fact, we'll get there really quickly. So I have 2 slides here, which is all the manipulations. And I'm gonna have Peter skip over this slide and the next slide, and we'll get to the first set of manipulations.
Jump 2 slides.
Go do this. Actually go back one, do the picture, go back one. So if you would.
Here we go.
So just at the bottom, okay, those are really just hero shots, full frame of honey. If you haven't seen a honey arch, there's a beautiful honey arch with a very old queen who's a very spotty layer. And the one on the right is a Warray hive. I've loved having Warray hives, so that's a whole other discussion. Next slide, please. So actually, how many of you have inspected your colonies already? It's fantastic. So for me, I'm running 8-frame Westerns, and what I typically, so this is 24 frames of 24 frames, and usually there's like 2 things, anyway, a really strong colony is gonna have bees in all 3 boxes. A decent colony is gonna have bees in just the other 2 boxes. And then a small colony is just gonna be in the very top box. But so, and what I'm suggesting is that we want to inventory based on full honey frames, partial honey frames, resource frames, which are pollen, cap brood and wet brood, which I'm going to refer to in this presentation as BC and BW, brood cap and brood wet. So to me, this is typically what you're going to see when you open up your colony sometime between middle of February and early March. Let's go to the next slide. So then, so we've inventoried the colony that we just found, and now we're reorganizing. And are most of you familiar with the phrase push brood down, move honey up? Okay, so what I mean by, so what we're going to do here is we're gonna get all of our brood in the bottom box, all of our cap brood, and then our wet brood is going to be over it. And then if there's any more cap brood, it'll surround the wet brood. I'm suggesting a frame of honey on the outside as insulation, resources, and then a couple of empties so that they have room to grow into. And then the top box is we got a little bit of honey and mostly empties so that they can grow. So this is the first thing that I do every year. And I'm going to go to the notes section. So when I work my colonies, and somebody was asking me about this online, is I want to equalize them. So some colonies are gonna have more brood, like this weekend, I had 4 that we were inspecting. 3 of them were really strong. One of them was Matt. The queen, well, not Matt. The queen was just getting going. She had a nice brood patch, but she was 3 or 4 weeks behind the other colonies. And so what we did was we basically broke down all 4 colonies, did the inventory, and then moved some brood bees on the frames as Don was saying, you know, into another colony. So that, because when I do my weekly inspections, I want all of my colonies to be identical. You know, I don't want this one to be at this stage and this one to be at this stage. I'm trying to do the same manipulations to every colony every week. Now, that said, you always have dings, there's always outliers, things always happen, but the goal is to try to have everybody be equal. So, so that's how I organize. Does that make sense or have any questions? Okay. So this is setting them, okay, and this is the important thing. Really what we're talking about is a new management system. And what we're trying to do is, what Lincoln would say that he is trying to force the queen to lay as many eggs as possible. Like his goal is to wear out the queen, to have her lay every egg she could possibly lay, so that by the time this process is over, she's done. And he's ruthless about it. And there's a picture on the back of his amazing colonies that we'll get to. But the idea is if you feed pollen in February, start building up your bees, then I wish I had started a month ago. I'd have 1 more brood cycle. I could have doubled, you know, I could have started pushing the queen, pushing the bees for more brood. I could have reorganized them a little earlier. Doesn't matter. Here we are. I've still got 3 cycles that I can do it. So here we are. Let's go to the next slide. So then 3 weeks from now, we should have, so I've included a series of estimations. So our inspection, our hive management is to push the brood down, organize the honey and resources, move empty frames and honey up. And I was in my colonies today. I had to go do a manipulation. They are bringing in so much maple right now. I'm seeing full frames of maple nectar in many of my colonies on many, many frames.
Where are your bees?
Mine are down in Auburn, near Honolulu's. So, and then I have one in my house there. So, so at the first inspection, we had 6 to 8 frames of brood. So I'm being a little conservative here and saying we're going to increase by 50 to the maximum of 100%. So now I'm saying 6 to 8, but 3 weeks later, we're going to have 9 to 14 frames of brood. So, and actually it says configuration 4 westerns, but it's really 3 westerns. So there's a typo. And so same thing, I'm gonna go into the colonies, I'm gonna make sure all my cap brood is at the bottom, my wet brood is above it, and my cap broods and additional cap brood surrounding it. We removed one of the honeys and moved it up and we put resources in. So before I had honey, now I have honey and resources. I use honey as an insulation, and many of us do, but so we're getting into the weather where they don't need insulation. Like so, ultimately, where we're going to get in this process is that we're going to have no honey in the brood nest. We're going to, anytime there's a frame of honey in the brood nest, we're going to remove it and move it up and out. And this is important because what we're trying to do is in box 3. What we really want to have happen is that's going to be, or it could be box 4 later on, but box 3 is we want them to start collecting honey and building the honey arch so that they will get up into the 3rd box at some point. And the photo on the right would be a typical example of what you see. And the goal here is to have that intermediate box between the bees and our honey super have a honey arch because the queen can't get past it. So when the bees draw out the honey at like this, the frames are so close that typically it acts as a natural queen excluder. So it's a really good way to know where your queen is not have her get into the honey supers, and keep her in the brood nest where we want her.
David, where is the queen working? Is she refilling the cap crews they emerge, or is she mostly the same?
She's gonna be all over. I mean, as bees emerge and it opens up, I mean, she's gonna be, they get all over the place. So, yes.
You're baiting a super with, brood frame?
We had enough in the last slide that I'm not,
It's a baited super.
box 1 or 2.
In box 3, your picture says
Oh.
baited super to form the honey arch.
Oh, yeah, I'm baiting honey.
Baiting honey.
Right, we want them to, and we're putting the honey in the center over the brood, because it'll basically it'll start stopping the bee from getting there. The bees might eat some of that honey, they could build, you'll.
And if she starts laying up that high, that means you need to do manipulations different to get her room done up.
No, we're still fine.
Okay.
I mean, like we're still in, they're all, at this point, we still have a perfectly good brood nest. They can't really grow out of it, so I mean, in a worst case scenario, we're gonna add a 4th box, but let's get to that. So, if you have that many bees, that many frames of brood, you'll end up with another box. Let's go to the next slide. Oh, okay. So here's a queen screen, and I will pass mine down, and I'm gonna let's pass it around. So I say, do not use use metal screen door mesh. Do not use fiberglass screen door mesh because they will just fill it up. So if you want to see what a queen screen looks like, these are some homemade ones, and then there's a link here. You can just go ahead and catalog your green screen, or I provided an engineer style drawing so that you can make your own, and it's got the dimensions for both 8 and 10 frame queen screens on it. So that is the queen screen. So that's our critical piece of beekeeping equipment to do this. Next. So now we're getting to what you were asking about. We're beginning to add boxes. So we're now assuming that we're going to have somewhere between 14 and 24 frames of brood, and that we're filling 4 or 5 westerns. If you're running deeps, 2 deeps equals 3 westerns. I'm sure everybody knows that. So and so so this is the point where we're adding the new queen. So typically I get queens around the 1st of May. So this is the really important manipulation where we're going to have 2 queens in our colony. So it's a little hard to see, but between box 3 and box 4, there's extra space, and that is the queen screen. And what we're going to do is we're going to do a full inspection. We're going to find all of our brood. We're going to find, in my case, 6 frames of cat brood, 2 frames of honey, and I'm going to build a box out of it. And I'm going to install the new queen with all the bees on the with actually probably more than enough bees in that box that would be in the box, because I want to account for flyback. Does everybody know what I mean when I say flyback? So what's going to happen is, since we're taking all the bees are using the bottom entrance in this colony, and now we're going to take all of these bees, we want to get as many nurse bees as possible, but I'll shake all kinds of extra bees into the top box. And that way, whatever amount flies back, it'll still leave me with plenty of bees. So I tend to overfill that top box with bees, knowing that there's going to be a large flyback on it. We're now getting into the season of the year where it's a perfect time to draw comb. So if you want to introduce empty frames and get some new comb drawn, this is the perfect time of year to do it. Don't do it in August. I've tried, it just relax. And yeah, so what we're going to do is, so now we've built this, box with the new queen. We want to make sure the old queen is not in it. So, okay, let's actually start there. in all inspections, the most important thing to do is to find the queen so you know where she is. You know, A, you don't damage her, B, you don't lose her, you know, and C, you can work freely without being concerned about worrying about her. So in the course of doing the initial inventory, we're looking for our queen. We want to segregate the old queen so that we can do all of this calmly. When I do inspections, I have lots of spare boxes because I'm moving the honey in one box and the wet brood, the full wet brood in one box, the partial, where the full brood captain in one box, the partials in another, the resources in another. So I've got a lot of gear and I use all of it because I like having a lot of room. I never work on a box that's over the grass. I always make sure there's some wood between me and the grass because I don't want to leave bees or queens in the grass. But it's really helpful to have extra gear. So now we build this. And so now, once again, so we have honey on the outside, resource on the outside, cap brood down, wet brood up, we move some honey up, so we have the same box that we had. You know, there may be more honey than we had 3 weeks ago, there may not be, and if there is, replace the empties, and we're wiping that box out. And then, so now we've created, now we have 3 boxes, but this is what we've created. And so we're gonna run with this only for 3 weeks because we wanna break this all down out of the blackbird. So the goal here is we're trying to do 2 things. We're trying to have two queens lay. So we're going to get additional brood production by having the second queen. We are introducing a new queen into the colony. So we have so that she is accepted. And then at the end of this period, we're going to remove the old queen, put her in a new, and recombine this colony into a single colony just ahead of the blackberry flow. So they're ready to go. And, and by this time, we could have, 20 to 40 frames of brood. So 20 to 40 frames of brood should make 20 to 40 frames of honey, life is good, so that's what we're trying to do. Next slide. Or actually, any questions? I'm sorry.
Well, the whole purpose of the second queen is to just build up numbers fast.
Well,
And also it sounds like an easy way to requeen the hive.
Well, and it's really, it's kind of a little of all that, yeah, so the winter is really hard on queens. So, I don't know, I requeen every year. I know people have 2- and 3-year-old queens, and in fact, I still have one red dot queen running around that's doing very well, but typically, I will, the idea here is that both we're pushing that queen, the older winter queen, she got through the winter, that's hard on her. She may be laying great, but she could also suddenly stop being great. And I've seen this, like you have a queen that is laying gangbusters in the early spring. I go to double queen, and then the old queen basically craps out. All of a sudden, it's like, where's the brood? So you never know when that old queen is just going to become a non-conformer.
I've heard that introducing a new queen like that motivates the old queen.
I don't know, but that's the point is that I'm trying to make is we don't know how long the old queen is going to last. And we're introducing a new queen so that when they go into the blackberry, we have a new queen. And typically, I still don't have, I still can't crush queens. I don't do it very often, so I'll almost always pull out the old queen, throw her in a new, because you never know when you're going to need a queen. And so I've got plenty of new boxes. So anyway, the idea is we're doing a trade, it's a relay race. The old queen is handing off to the new queen. Regarding brood production, really in 3 weeks with a new queen, she's not going to double because she's just getting going. Like she may hit the ground running, but sometimes queens take a week or 10 days before they really get for 2 weeks. So maybe we get a whole bunch of brood from it, maybe we don't. But what we are getting is the new queen is being introduced, and we're getting some additional brood in addition to what we get, what we would have had. So, any more questions? Yes.
What do you get the yellow queen? Do you have a queen factory?
No, we're 5 queens. We used to get all old Sauls. We were like, Lincoln had this deal because he was John's first customer that like he would typically order a couple hundred queens the previous fall. And John just gave us the bad news that he's not selling queens anymore. So we're shopping for a new queen provider. But you know what, I love the old Saul queens. I will beekeep, as you saw in the first picture, without a veil or without gloves. And you know, and generally they're pretty docile and pretty mild. You know, so
I guess that having queens with good genetics is essential for these to succeed.
well, we won't get started on California queens. It's all, you know, I'm a huge fan of Northwest queens and and local queens. I'm a huge fan of Northwest queens. Thank you. So yeah, there was some yes.
How does this change your IPM, and if so, how?
Oh, I don't really do. I mean, my IPM. I don't really do IPM. I mean, I haven't pulled drone brood or done anything like that. It wouldn't change anything that I'm really.
Okay.
So what were you thinking? Yeah,
I'm just thinking about like the lack of brood break and what that might do to colony population.
You can certainly do mite counts in the spring and decide where you want to treat, but that I would do that as early in the spring as I would, so that they don't get going.
So shout out to the fellow Baylor's.
Yeah, you know, I mean, I was like, there was plenty of drones between the frames on Saturday, and they broke open, and I'm like, oh look, there's a mite, you know, there they are, you know. So all right. So
There's still plenty of opportunity for a summer brood break, of course, but yeah.
Yeah. All right. Okay. So this is recombining. So this is really. So what we're going to do here. Yeah, I'll actually run through my instructions. So the inspection goal is to restore the colony to a single queen and to create a new queen. Our hive management is we're going to inventory the colony with captive wet brood, resources, honey frames, and empty frames. And brood, at this point, we're going to assume 20 to 32 frames of brood. And I tried to make my drawings to match that. And my configuration is, I'm saying 5 or 6 westerns is what we've got. And then I'm going to point out that if we're going to add boxes, we're going to do it we're going to do it over the box that we've established as the honey arch super. That's where all new boxes are going to go. And so the key to doing this is that we want to move the top box with the new queen into the position of box 1. And we want to move every bee. We're not going to change the arrangement of the brood frames. We're not going to do anything to that box. So we're going to take it off the top. We're going to set it down on a bottom board. We're going to find the old queen. We're going to segregate her out of the colony. We're going to then lift all the, and in the course of doing, and then we're going to place the top box on the very top. And so the new queen with all of her bees, all of her nurse bees, all of her field force is going to be in the first box. And the reason for this is that you want to have all of her bees there to protect her, because the field force that is flying back in, if you just put the queen down there on a couple of frames, they come in and they go, who is this lady? And even though they know the smell, that would be the last you ever see of her. So what you really, or it may or may not, but you don't want to take that chance. So the insurance policy is to move the entire box with all of the bees and don't move anything and put it in the bottom. And then we're gonna take the box that's formerly box number 1, and we're gonna put it on top of the new box that has the new queen in it, in box number 2 position. And then we're gonna do what we always do. We're gonna, well, we want to go a little bit different here. We're gonna put the wet brood above box 1. And then we're gonna put the cat food, the remaining cat food above that. And you'll also notice at this point, we don't have honey frames on the outside anymore. We don't have resource frames. We're just saying it's wall-to-wall bees. If you're in tens, you make, if you don't have enough resources with a 10 to be wall-to-wall, then put a honey frame on the outside. In case, I typically don't do that. So the reason that we're putting the cat brood is to address what you were asking about, is the brood nest, is that we want the queen lower down where the wet brood is. You know, she'll get up into the cat brood boxes, but what we really want to do is we want that upper honey box to get fully established. Once again, like our goal is to have that honey arch built so that the queen can't get up into the higher boxes. And so that's really what we're doing. And then as we super through, and then you want to stay ahead of your super rate. If you get a week or 2 behind, what's gonna happen is the bees will start putting honey into the brood chamber. And when they do that, you can be asking them to swarm. So typically when you're double queening, there is 0 chance to have a swarm because they have plenty of space. You're managed, I never say 0, very small chance of a swarm. So that's what we're doing. And so if you allow the colony to get plugged, then you're not going to have as much honey to remove. You're going to have all these mixed frames of honey and brood, and it's just a total mess. So you want to make sure you stay ahead of it. And then whenever you need, you'll see on the top right, it says additional honey supers here. We're all, no matter how many we have, we're always going to put that next honey super in the position over the honey arch. And the reason for that is you don't want to be putting an empty honey super at the top of 6 or 7 boxes and asking them to walk up all the way. You want it as close to the brood nest as you can possibly get it. Let the bees do the least amount of walking you need to do to deposit their honey into a frame. And I think there's, I guess that let's go to our closing slide. Good slide. So the photo in the middle is are Lincoln's 10 frame boxes that look like ammo boxes, and those are what his double queen colonies look like ahead of the bucket. Right, this is before the bucket. So he's in 6 and 7, 10 frame deep boxes already. So, you know, I actually think Lincoln may be the best beekeeper in Washington State, but it's like, I've never been able to do this. I go to Lincoln's and I'm like, I don't know how you get so many bees, but what he's doing is he's aggressively growing bees, like the way I was talking about, and he does it, he feeds heavily in the spring, gets them going, you know, keeps the queen in the brood box, keeps pushing her to make as much food as possible by continuously keeping the brood chamber open. You know, if we're going in, we're doing these weekly inspections, we want to make sure the queen in all of these 4 stages that we've had, in each one of them, as long as we make sure that there's adequate room in the brood nest for the queen to lay, they're not going to swarm, and you know, and well, yeah, and we're going to. This is how you manage large colonies and don't worry about swarming. So,
How long did it take you to do the 1 hive?
I don't know, because I always do several at once. You know, it's all day. You know, sometimes it's all weekend. I mean, at one time I ran 80 colonies. You know, these days, like, typically come out of the winter with 5 or 10. I end the year at 20 to 30. You know, I start all over again. but yeah, we can spend the whole weekends managing the bees. So for me, this is my relaxation. So like I've monetized everything I've ever wanted to do. I don't monetize my bees. You know, I beekeep for myself, and this is just purely one for my pleasure. So I'm not really concerned with the amount of, I'm more concerned with the strength as I go. You know, went down to those 8-fray westerns. You know. But yeah, you know, sometimes I'll have a colony that's 8 or 9 boxes tall, and I'm standing on 3 boxes of bees, trying to lift one off. With, you know, you know. Anyway, questions.
Yeah, what step ladder do you recommend?
I don't have a step ladder. I use pea boxes. You know, I have a little giant ladder if I was to haul it around. You know, and then I have orchard ladders. You know where 3-legged orchard ladders. Those are the bomb. So yeah, grab yourself an orchard ladder. Yeah, and then if you want the presentation, just my email's there, and I'm happy to send it out, or Tina will have it if you want to send it out.
Sorry, 1 second, I'm trying to see. Great, awesome, there.
I
So,
have a question. So
sure.
this is really cool. Thank you, David. Looks like a really fun way to make more honey, which I know a lot of hobbyists want to do. So this is really cool, and it's new thoughts to think about. So, it seems like there could also be 2 other ways that would get to the same spot, and I'm curious on your thoughts if you've tried these other things also. So another way you could do this is you could take 2 full colonies and pull the queen out into a nuke and newspaper combine them. And that might be kind of a down and dirty way to do the same thing. And you could do that last minute, just before, you know, just when the first blackberry blooms start to pop. Pull a nuke with a queen in it and do a newspaper combine. And the other way is if you started earlier, like in April, and did a demaree split and let that top box raise its own new queen, then that might accomplish the same thing also. Have you tried?
Yeah. The first one absolutely would do it. The second one, you're going to lose a month because of the demaree split.
Or you start in April, so you start a month earlier.
I will say I've done the demaree. Sorry for jumping in, David. I have done the demaree version, double queening. It absolutely works. Those hives get massive and produce lots of honey.
Perfect.
Absolutely. Yeah.
All right.
You gotta make a queen somewhere.
Yep.
Unless you're buying it.
Yeah.
Right. Yeah. Right. Yeah, so yeah, those would both work. I guess my question would be is if you had 2 colonies, you know, I would have been working to get them to be bigger than, but yeah, if you have 2 that are medium, yeah, absolutely.
So what you get then is so when I combine 2 colonies, I get 1 big one, and what you're getting is 2 big ones. So that's the advantage.
Yeah, and let me actually speak to splits for a minute, because I'm on bee forums all the time, and in the spring people are like, I'm gonna make splits, and I'm like, why? You're not gonna get any honey if you keep making splits, you know, or if you have a swarm happen, you're not gonna get any honey. So to me, splits happen in August after the blackberry, not in the spring buildup. I want to manage all of my colonies for maximum size, and then I'll do my splits starting in August.
If you already have everything they need, you can just plug in.
Well, let's talk about that. So when does the bee fiscal year start? That's a question. Anybody want to take
August
1. So when we pull honey is the beginning of next year. And this is really important. The beginning of the year is not January. The beginning of the year is August 1. So first week of August, we pull all of our honey. Every bee that we have is now going to be a dead bee. So we're going to have these enormous colonies, and those bees, what we want to do with them is we want to treat them, and we want to split those colonies as quickly as possible while those bees are alive. And then we're going to take those splits, we're going to give them pollen patties, we're going to push that queen
because from August 1 to October 1 is all the time we have to get ready for winter. So our goal is to build up as many fat colonies by October 1 as we possibly can. And when I said our bees are dead bees, it's because all the bees that come out of the blackberry are summer bees, and they're not going to live past September 1. So the bees that start getting laid in August by the existing queen or by any new queens you put in, those are going to become our winter bees. So all the bees that we have are going to go away, and the goal is to replace them with as many fresh bees as possible going into the winter. Questions? Did I get your opinion on cut down splits before the blackberry? You know, I can't remember all. So cut down split is really just, it's a walk away split. Clean out, and then they have no nursery. Yeah, you absolutely could do that. You know, I mean, people, you know, it's another manipulation you can do. And yeah, and there are people who say it's really successful to remove the queen so that the bees just do their thing. I've never done it, so I can't offer you really. I know about it. Actually, I have a completely different subject. I have 2 moray hives there, and most years they overwinter, and then in the spring they will throw swarms. And so like they've been amazing for me. I have all this empty gear on the north side of the house. My morays live on the south side of the house under an eave. They get the winter sun. They're next to a big tall chimney so that it's a heat sink. They usually live, and then I usually will catch 8 or 10 swarms out of my morays in my empty gear, and it's been a phenomenal way to repopulate my apiary passively. So I'm going to put in a word for moray hives. I think they're fantastic. So, anything else? Yes, that's it. What do you do about honey? Give it away, sell it, you know, whatever. You know, like I'm looking for 300 to 600 pounds a year is, you know, what I'm trying to do, you know, and, you know, I sell some buckets, you know, give away a lot of honey. Yeah, I do it all, but it's just fun. Yeah. Yeah. There's always another question. I know that. Yes. I think dovetail light management with. Oh, that's a really good question. You know, I have to say I'm not the best mite manager in the world. I've typically been doing all my mite. I've been in August is when I typically do my mite control. I know people are busy doing mite counts continuously and doing continuous mite treatments. I have not, you know, my program has generally been to use Apogard off-label, where I will treat once a week for 3 weeks because and then you cover the blood cycle in the 3rd, and yes, that's typically been what I do, and I'm considering being a little more aggressive about it. Seems like it would be relevant to boosting the population, boosting the white population. But you got to knock them down sometime, you know. So that's fine. For me, I've been doing it in August. What's that? Light bombs from neighbors, if you have neighbors and. Yeah. Yeah, no, I've been really, I don't know, like, my neighborhood, I don't know that there are a ton of beekeepers here in West Seattle, you know. I don't. Yeah. You need drawn home for this to work, or can you do equipment? No, that's a great question. So I have, in the last few years, I probably built about 600 frames, and actually, funny story about that is I've been continuously putting in undrawn foundation, and actually, can you go back to the last slide on it? So, oh no, I don't have it. I didn't include it. When the bee, so I have won the best frame award at the Puyallup Fair like 2 or 3 years in a row. Not because I've done anything, but typically my friend Lincoln extracts my honey for me. And when I have brand new frames and they're filled during the nectar flow, they can be one color all the way across. Every cell is filled, they're perfect frames. And yeah, so like putting in new frames, I've cycled out all my old frames. And these days I'm really ruthless about my frames. I'm like, if it's damaged or messy, it's just out of it. I have so much fear because I've sized it.
When you say empty in there, that could be empty.
Yeah, so, now's the time, now's the time to draw column. They want to do it, they're ready to do it. So like when you can drop empties in, and typically, I'll usually put them in as pairs. Because what I found is if you put one in between two frames, the bees might just extend the honey from those other two frames. So you want to insert empties in blocks so that they get built out. But I forgot your name, Sam. I was showing Sam, I have a photo of foundation, and it's still foundation in the corners and the sides, and they've already laid a fruit patch right into the middle of it. It's like when they're ready to draw comb, they will just draw comb. And that's now through the nectar flow. Like if you try, like one year I tried drawing comb in August because I thought, oh, the bees have nothing to do. I'll give them something to do, Well, bees don't operate on my schedule. And they just chewed up all the wax that I put in there because I foolishly put in. So this is another thing. I guess what I'd like to talk about is I am a fan of like keeping your beehives as small as possible and filled with as many bees as possible. So, going into the winter, everybody's going to get pushed down into 2 or 3 boxes, or 1 box. I'm going to overwinter 1, 2, or 3 boxes, but I don't want any space. I don't want any air. I don't want any frames that are full drafty frames. You want your bees to be warm and packed densely together is what we want. Like for instance, like if you think about a 5-frame nuke, like have you ever bought a 5-frame nuke and you pick it up and it's like a cinder block? So, or what you're trying to do when you're feeding for winter, what we're trying to do is the brood population is good. She's laying less and less. We're feeding as much as we can. So we want them to backfill every frame with honey. So at October 1, there's not an unfilled cell in the hive and all the bees are on the surface. And there's like basically, a tiny brood patch somewhere. So our goal is to get them to backfill the entire colony with sugar water, honey, whatever you're using. Yes.
So kind of boiled down, the whole process is aggressively managing, like reorganizing frames if you need to, as much as you can to keep it in order. And that's how you get the efficiency is.
Yes, yeah, exactly. So you go in, you're a week out from your last reorganization and you're like, oh, look, there's a honey frame in, I'll move it up and out. Okay, I'll get all of my cap brood in the bottom. I can put in a few empties.
Have those extra boxes, like you said, that's huge. You can't do without, yeah.
You need at least 2 extra boxes. So, and that's the other thing, is like, whenever you're working a colony, take 1 frame out, set it on the side so that you don't roll any bees when you're pulling out frames, And then typically, like the first frame I'll pull out is not the one on the end. I'll pull out the one in because the boxes are not that strong on the corners. And that way you're taking the bees around the boxes. So, you can go in, you can like if on the outside frame, they put in honey, they can turn it around so that they work the other frame. I mean, you can do all kinds of things, but yes. This is aggressively managing the root nest.
Any questions from anyone online? We've been talking a lot in person here. David, someone did want to ask wanted to confirm where your hives are located, and it is Auburn, right?
Yeah.
And then someone I think when you were talking about the when you split the hive, when you originally added the second queen, someone wanted to confirm the old queen, does the old queen go in the top or the bottom?
Bottom.
The old queen goes in the bottom.
Yeah, yes.
Great.
They fight. Fight for each other.
You know what?
When two queens are in the same hive, they're supposed to fight.
Oh, do they
Well,
pipe?
And I've never heard that, but I always wondered if you.
New queens will pipe if you want it, because you're bugging them, you'll hear them pipe and that. But no, I haven't heard them pipe because there's two queens.
I guess a question for me, David, just when you are initially doing that split to add the second queen, you're moving all of the cap, or not all, but you're moving capped brood, I assume primarily emerging capped brood up into the top so that she's getting fresh nurse bees very, very quickly.
Right.
Do you do anything as you're adding her to prevent the old queen's pheromones from keeping them from accepting her? Or do they, once she's up that high above, is acceptance not really an issue?
Not an issue. No, they're always connected. The new queen in a segregated box will always be accepted. Absolutely. Yeah, and I'm saying take the whole box except for the outer frames and make it solid brood, cap brood, because yes, then they'll emerge soon. So yeah. And that's enough, but I also dump in all kinds of extra bees because you know you're gonna lose half of them. You know, so hopefully you dump in enough nurse bees, you know, so, and then hopefully some workers.
Okay.
That queen or the big hive is hard, at least for me.
Uh-huh.
You have any tips that I make that help?
Queen spotting, oh my God, well, do you mark your queens?
I don't.
Mark your queens. I mean, it's, you know, the old sols are dark, finding a dark queen like in August can be wretched. You know, where, you know, so
Every time I've gone, I was like, my hive is big, I want to do this, and then
okay.
find queen.
Let's talk about
Courage.
okay. The queen is, I mean, let's do this. So do you start at the top and work your way down? When you're looking for a queen?
I will usually start at the, wherever the brood nest is.
Okay, good. Right, okay, so that's exactly the thing is, pull your boxes off, find the box, find the frames with the most bees on them, she's probably gonna be there. And then here's the real trick, is that if you don't find her right away, you need to have separate boxes, so like, when you don't want to take a frame out and put it back in, take it out and put it back in, because you may never find her that way. So you take a box off and then you one by one it into another box, you know, and you're looking for it and they're separate. And then you go to the next box and you just work them. And sometimes, like, there are days where you go through all those boxes 3 times. You know, it can be
That doesn't mean that's.
it can be really rough. I mean, I remember one time I was working and we never found the queen. And I was with my friend Anna, and some bees had spilled and my bees are on pallets and they're in a field. And I'm like, the one thing you always have to do is know where the queen is. And if you haven't found her, you're asking for trouble. And I'm crawling in the dirt in those pallets. And of course, there she was in a clump of bees. So, you know, you can't give up on finding, you know, it's really important if you need to find her and know you've done it, because otherwise you just take the chance.
One trick of last resort that I've found last year was if you can take your inner cover, put it on top of the box that you want the queen to go into and just start shaking the bees frame by frame. And they will actually create a clump on top of the queen, and that's actually a somewhat easier way to spot her because she's not in among the brood normally that way.
Sure. I guess another question is, do you smoke?
Yes.
Don't smoke. So seriously, the only time I will smoke is in August when they're getting nasty, Because as soon as you smoke, the colony goes crazy and they're running everywhere and they've lost all organization. And, you know, like what's so beautiful is that
You're going through the brood nest without a veil and gloves and.
no, I'm wearing a jacket. My veil is like behind me until I need it. And, you know, if my fingers are getting stung, I'm like, all right, I don't like getting my fingers stung at. I will gear up. But my point is that when you take frames out that haven't been smoked, the bees are all still on the frame. And it's the queen who's walking like a bulldozer. So you learn to look for the queen walking, because typically on a bee frame, they're all stationary in place, you know, and it's only the queen is moving. So it's so rare that I smoke, you know, I generally don't smoke. It's it's a horrible thing to do. What's that?
I don't know. I love my smoke.
Well, this is what I have to say is if you try not smoking, you'll have a very different experience when you do an inspection, and you'll have a very different experience with your bees.
Well, I don't like wearing a veil or gloves. Once you get that first sting in the pheromones release, I mean, it's game over because they have other uses.
I don't think so. I know people who keep an alcohol wipe, like the guy, like Peter Harvard down in Tacoma, who's been doing it for years. He keeps alcohol wipes. If he gets stung, he just does a little wipe. I wouldn't say one sting does it. I don't think that. I don't mind that, actually.
Have you ever, I mean, when the hive gets angry and they're just out together.
But that happens maybe once every few years. You know, that's not a common, you know, it's like that happens. Okay, so let's talk about apiaries. I'll typically, like in a big apiary, I'll have 10 colonies. The order that I go through them is I go from the mildest one to the orneriest one last, because you know, you don't want to get the pheromone in the air. And so the longer you can keep your bees calm, the better. So if you know there's a couple of big ones that are just testy, you do those last, you know, and it's like, and I try to avoid using smoke, like in that situation, yeah, in August is when you smoke.
Old bees are ordinary bees.
No. You should be able to one-hand frames with no gear, like this time of year.
Oh, yeah, but from August, they got a bunch of old bees that are.
Well, come August, they're hungry, there's no resources, and all the workers are home. You know, you've got everything working against you. Yeah, you need to smoke around those days, but in the spring, no, don't smoke. Look at your bees, like stand still on the frame. Let them fly by and feel the air from their wings and get the hive smell, you know, get the honey wafting by you. It's like so nice.
Do not use smoke. And the only time I have had all the bees freak out at me is the time that a visitor to my hives did not read my email and brought a honey banana sandwich. We tend
to keep down this. It's having employees and people be like more, if you get stung and that really pisses you off, the bees are gonna respond to that. So like she had a panic attack, so she cannot go, she doesn't call out for the rest of the day because she still go at like your presence with the bees is.
It does have an effect.
Yeah.
I will also say that I do generally wear a veil, but I never wear gloves unless I'm with an absolutely awful hive. And even into August, I use no or minimal smoke, and I almost never have a hive get upset with me. You can do it. You have to work slowly. You have to really listen to the bees. It's not something a new beekeeper, in my opinion, should do. But you do, as you learn how to work with the bees, it's amazing how much you can do with them with minimal protection and minimal smoke or other things.
Actually, let's talk about that for a second. So you open the beehive and it's quiet. And the goal is to keep the beehive quiet. So whatever you're doing, so like sometimes you'll hear like blah, 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 the hum will start a little bit. So here's the progression. Beehive's quiet, then it's humming, then it gets a little louder, then they're coming off the frames. Then the next thing they're doing is then it gets even louder, they're headbutting you, then it gets even louder, they're stinging you. So it's like you have all these warnings of what's going on. And so like if I hear the sound increasing, I change my behavior. And and that may include being like, we're gonna walk away right now. So I think if you're, what Peter was saying, if you just listen to them. So, these tell you when they've had enough, and you get plenty of warnings. So I have asthma, so I used to see my allergist, and I would be like, so how many times, Dr. Mogan, do I need to get stung every year so that I'm not gonna develop and he's like, around 200 stings is probably what it takes to have enough, And I don't know about you, but it's like, these things really don't hurt very much. I mean, they hurt in certain locations, but these things, it's not like a yellow jacket, which lasts for days, like these things for a little while. And then it goes away. So, getting stung is not that big of a deal.
Once you've been stung enough times.
They're all at Old Sauls and whatever John's breathing. So I probably would not buy Italians. Like I'm not a fan of yellow, California bees. Much so it's whatever the local mutts are.
The Old Souls are a mix of basically everything. They've got Italian, they've got Carney, they've got Caucasian. I think they've got a few others I can't even remember, but it's a mix of a lot of different types of bees in the Old Souls.
All right.
Okay, thank you all so much for coming. Thank you, David, for doing the presentation. We really, really appreciate it, everyone. Everyone online, thank you so much. And we look forward to seeing you next month. I think Brad Jones is going to be presenting on his experience bringing bees down to the almonds for the first time ever and how bees behave a bit differently, grow during that early season. Love the almonds. He's going to have some gorgeous photos, all of that sort of stuff. It should be a really fun meeting, talking about stuff that a lot of us don't get to experience. Thank you all so much. And Tracy will be back for her beginner's lesson, I think, in April. And we'll talk to you later. Thank you all.